Welcome to the counter-revolution. The media establishment, lib diehards, and other regime apparatchiks continue to melt down in the face of Trump's mandate to reform the American bureaucracy. But his true tests are still to come. How will he react to in the face of the rogue judiciary? In other news, the new Christian right continues to shape itself into a visible force, gaining momentum in the broader context of the decline of the post-war American ethos. This has massive implications for Contra Mundum, as we will discuss today.
With the inspiration of the death of the Soviet Union itself before us, we know now that it can be done. We shall break the clock of social democracy. We shall break the clock of the Great Society. We shall break the clock of the welfare state. We shall break the clock of the New Deal. We shall break the clock of Woodrow Wilson's New Freedom and Perpetual War. We shall repeal the 20th century.
Well, hello and welcome to Contra Mundum. I'm Andrew Isker and this is CJ Engel. Very special episode for you today where we discuss a lot of important things. Anything important to discuss, CJ?
This is our big announcement. And the next few weeks, we're going to roll out a variety of different gimmicks and benefits and goodies for our supporting listeners. So, you know, the big announcement that you're going to see over the next couple of weeks is that we are officially partnering with New Christian Press. So they are going to be our distribution network and they're going to be our production team. And they're going to Haunted Cosmos our Contra Mundum. So we have a new supporting listener series, and it's going to be the first set is going to be about 20 to 22 episodes on repealing the 20th century. So everyone's known about that. It's going to be behind a paywall. It's going to have all of the great audio and visuals that, New Christian Press has basically become known for. But, one of the things that we look forward to as being part of the New Christian Right is beginning to develop a sort of united front. This is one of the things that I think has been lacking in our, we're all doing our own thing. We have our own groups of people, but now it's time to kind of work together. And so we want to create this alternative to the Daily Mail and some of these other outlets and just be that resource for the New Christian Right. So we are officially partnering with
Daily
them.
Mail?
Daily Wire
and the
Daily, maybe, coming soon. You heard it here first.
Yeah, we're going to get into British news.
Yes, we are. So anyways, New Christian Press is, they're great guys and we are just honored to be partnered with them. So you'll see that content. So we have a new media release series. So every Friday afternoon will be the same headlines. It'll be live. It'll be more relaxed.
Same live show. Yeah.
Same live show.
Yeah.
Then we'll have a variety of different series. Our first series is going to be Repealing the 20th Century. Our next series, maybe it'll be our third series, but that's going to be in the late summer, early fall, and that's going to be on the Spanish Civil War. And we have a very special participant that we are honored to have, doing that with us. So that's going to take some money. It's going to take some resources, and that's something that I know, a lot of people don't like asking for, but it does require resources to do stuff like this. So thank you for your support. ContraMundumPod.com/premium is where you can go to sign up for that. But the additional thing is that we're also going to have a Wednesday show now too. And that's going to be pre-recorded. It'll usually be deep dive interviews, book reviews, things like that with a guest. We just recorded 90 minutes with Ron Unz talking about
Unz.com
talking about the hidden history of World War II, and Charles Lindbergh, America First Committee. I mean, Ron is a great guest. He's so knowledgeable and he loves to chat about that. So we're going to be releasing that on Wednesday. And so if you want to listen to that, please support us at ContraMundum.com, ContraMundumPod.com.
Get it right.
/premium. So that's the big news. There's also other news too. Like New Christian Press is going to be doing a lot of things with us. Stephen Wolf and I just signed an agreement to produce a collection of essays with various, members of the New Christian Right that should be coming out this year. So look out for that. That's going to be like just a great book of well-rounded a broad range of topics talking about the past and future of what it means to be on the right, from a largely a Protestant perspective.
Yeah.
So many things are happening. That's the big news.
Yeah, so Total Ogden Victory retained. That's right. And they didn't end up winning the big tournament on
No, they
X.com, but they won something better.
Won us.
They won Contra Mundum. So they got that going for them. So no, it's very exciting to get to be able to do these things. And like you said, CJ, the kind of things that we want to produce like are going to be really cool. And it'll be, I cannot wait to show them to everybody, to show the work that we've already been doing. We've been doing this for a few weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
And when that comes to fruition, I think people will really, really like it. So yeah, think CJ and I doing a history, show,
scripted,
where I'll just monologue for 20 minutes, and maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. And but then also produced with the same production value as Haunted Cosmos and many of the other podcasts it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, but it's more symbolic than that too. It's like, look, we've been in this world for so long where the conservative media establishment has been pretty lame.
Mm-hmm.
They've offered nothing.
Yeah,
and there's sort of a we're going from a gatekeeper conservatism to a true counter-revolutionary right wing. And we've discussed this at length, that it really, the most effective counter-revolution in America is going to have to come from the Christian circle.
Yeah. There's nothing, there's no other positive vision really out there. There are other, ones, but it's like, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
There's not any, like, you can't win a battle of ideas, a war of these things, of ideologies or what have you, with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what conservatism has largely been, is fighting something with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't have a positive vision. It's, my Constitution, my free market principles. It's like, no, like, those things are going to be used to manipulate you every single time. Right? You don't have a particular vision of the good that you want, right? Something that you're striving towards, something you're trying to build. You're going to lose because the enemy absolutely has one.
Yeah.
Right? They want to trans your kids, and they want you to live in a global economic zone. Right? They want to flood your country with people from the third world.
So let's get into this a little bit. I mean, why are we choosing as our first series, like a whole bunch of episodes on repealing the 20th century is actually just the name of it. But what are we actually doing? Like, what's the point of this?
Yeah, it is. And we're stealing from the, we are stealing from the first episode, which I think that one we're going to have not behind a paywall, if I remember right. But so you can watch that, but nothing else. But so much of us, I mean, I think about everyone, in the comments section, everyone that I talk to that watches the show. Most of us, I mean, if you weren't homeschooled like CJ was, if you're like me and you went to public school, or even if you went to most private Christian schools, actually, you were taught a version of history, a narrative of history that is starting to come apart at the seams. Now that people have learned, hey, the mainstream narrative of things, we're lied to about a lot of those things. We're lied to about all sorts of stuff. Like, where did this virus come from in 2020? Who is exactly Jeffrey Epstein? Right? What was the whole Russiagate hoax? Oh, that was fake. That was all made up, and the entire media told you that it was true. How exactly did the Ukraine war start? Right? All of these things many people have discovered they've been lied to. They've been lied to about by institutions that used to hold universal trust by everyone. And so those things are starting to come apart, including what your 10th grade history teacher told you, or the curriculum that your mom used to homeschool you. I mean, it really ultimately comes from the same source. Mm-hmm. And it's just as a Christian worldview. But
it's like, yeah, it's baptized in Bible verses.
well, yeah, exactly.
basically, yeah.
Like they throw a couple Bible verses in there, but it's identical to what I got in 10th grade from Houghton Mifflin or whatever. So those things are falling apart. But at the same time, the most difficult thing is when you lose institutional trust, right? When all of the institutions are revealed as totally bankrupt and not worthy of your trust, then what do people do? Do they just instantaneously find the truth? No, they are sheep without a shepherd that are cast adrift, and they'll read, like, people will read the craziest stuff and buy it, and they'll believe different lies from anybody rather than go through like actual historical research that's correct, that's verifiable, right? They'll glom onto any narrative that's that's counter to the mainstream, the court history, the mainstream narrative. And so the need of the hour is to provide trustworthy institutions in the place, right? People that have read history, that know it, and know where we've been lied to and what the truth actually is.
Yeah.
And I mean, anything that I say, right? Anything that you say, we want people to you could be the fact checker, you could be the Redditor saying source, right? Great. We want you to do that, actually, because we want people to trust what we are saying is correct and accurate and true. And so we're going to go through so many of them, and so much of the 20th century is lies. So much of it, and not just lie, like preposterous lies, things that are not just a few degrees off of the truth, but like 180 degrees off of the truth. And we have to unlearn so many of those things and learn what actually happened.
Yeah. So like learning what actually happened is like a huge part of it, but also just having a counter narrative.
Yeah.
That like, I think we would both agree that like the primary narrative of the 20th century that we get is progress. Yeah. That, I mean, like another part of it too, is that it was the ultimate fulfillment of what the founding fathers wanted.
Yes,
and what we're going to declare, it was a step-by-step degradation and assault and ultimate liquidation of the founders' vision for America. And so the 20th century was a replacement and conqueror of heritage America. And that's what we want to make the case for. We want to make the case for a lot of the trash world that we are immersed in every single day have a history to it. It came from somewhere. It wasn't just dropped down by Obama in 2010.
Everything was good before 2008.
Yeah.
No.
So we're going to start at the end of the 19th century, and we're going to talk about, what was the context of Woodrow Wilson in the Progressive Era. And we're going to go from there. We're going to go theme by theme. We're going to talk about the major cataclysms, the major political actors, the major economic forces, cultural forces, agendas. These are things that affected the domestic front and the foreign front. So we're going to talk about World War I and the 20s and World War II. We're going to get deep into.
Oh, we are going to talk about World War II. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's in there, isn't it?
Oh, I guess. Yeah.
Check the calendar. But like, we're going to talk about the primary villain of the 20th century and who that was, and
who could that be?
Andrew's going to make the case for Stalin, and I'm going to make the case for whoever did silicone rings.
That was Stalin. Did you know that?
Stalin did that. Yes, so true. It's going to be fun though. It's funny because we were sketching it out. We were like, maybe this will be a 10 episode. By the time we were done sketching it out, we're like 22 episodes.
They were like, no, we got to do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, two episodes on the Cold War.
Yeah.
So,
it's exciting.
It's exciting. So
it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun, but it's also in the context really of like, the right wing, the Christian right wing has a lot of energy behind it.
Yeah.
And unifying together with New Christian Democrats, and there's going to be others too.
Yeah.
They'll jump in on their own time, but like there's going to be a bunch of us, and we're going to have these adjacent projects.
Yeah. Like our people, they need this. They need easily digestible, I
had a comment here.
There's a lot of stuff for Andrew to cover in the podcast that he does all by himself. Yes, Contra Mundum. Yes, exactly. Although you went on a show and you were described as the host of Contra Mundum, and I was very salty about that. That one's good too. Pre-recorded Paul Gottfried, so the audio might be good. we're gonna have
to go visit him.
This is why we are asking people to support us, so we can drive all the way to Pennsylvania and record in person with Paul.
That's
so
not
we
a
get
joke.
good audio.
That's actually like these are.
I'm not joking.
we have an expense list, and plane flights and gas are on our expense list.
Flying and driving to Pennsylvania to record with Paul. Like every minute we can get with Paul and get content of his.
And I can't quite say the other person, but like it's really going to be an honor to talk with the other participants in our later series.
Yeah, we have to keep that one under wraps until we do it.
Until we're there on the ground.
Yeah, it's not. We're not resurrecting Franco. If that's what you think.
We would never do that.
Can't bring him back from the dead to interview him. I don't even speak Spanish. So anyway,
yeah. So that's
the news. That's what's going on with us. But
this. So the first part is we were going to talk about Trump's executive measures, but I think these two are related. Yeah. Because right now there's an overall mandate on the right to actually do something. Yeah. We've been talking for so long about how the leftists are in control and we're losing
power over everything.
We're losing our liberties and our culture is going down the toilet. It's like, but what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And there are things that we can do as private citizens, and there are things that people in power should do. And Trump has a mandate, and all these things work together.
Yeah.
And this is also related to what we talked about a few weeks ago, that posters are in control, and that right now podcasters and Twitter posters have more sway on policy formation than think tanks do. That's important.
Yeah. Like our little segment of the world. I mean, it isn't just our guys. It isn't just Steven and us and guys like that. I mean, there are other people on the right. There are many Catholics on the right. I think this is where JD Vance got it, but have been talking about the Ordo Amoris for years. And then you have the vice president use the exact same language, the exact same framing that we do. And it's like, well, where did you get that? Like these ideas percolate throughout online, throughout, among everybody. And so that's why you can have a tiny little segment. I mean, we're tiny, we don't have millions of followers that we're reaching. And it doesn't matter, right? Because if an idea is good, if an idea is powerful, the current, internet and media environment allows good ideas, correct ideas, very old ideas, to gain prominence again. And it's related to also, I think, just a discussion about the new Christian right and what it means for recovering an older Christian vision of the political is something that is incredibly important, because for decades, for maybe a century, Christians have been taught that our world's not this home, that politics doesn't matter, that any pursuit of political power is ipso facto sinful and bad, that you shouldn't want power because power is evil. And so what that means is just give power to evil people then, right? We shouldn't have any Christians in power. And it's a repudiation of all of these things, that no, it's actually good for Christians to wield political power for the common good and for the good of the church, for the good of Christian people. And I'm just so giddy. I'm so like white-pilled, man, that this kind of stuff is happening. It's something that it has been needed for our entire lifetimes, and it's finally beginning to take place.
So I don't know if Gary knows how to pull up a picture, but there was the picture that the White House posted of King Trump, right?
Oh yeah.
So
we can talk about that. Yeah. He's gonna try it. Yeah,
Gary's gonna work his magic, but everyone's freaking out about this, right?
Like, I need a camera though.
But they're freaking out about King Trump. Obviously, that's just a meme.
He's joking.
Yeah, he's joking, but they're freaking out. That's why he does it, because they're freaking out.
He likes to troll them. Yeah.
But this is important, because this is like one of the things that
there it is right there.
In fact, here's the thing.
It's on Instagram though. So
here's the thing. So this is coming from the paleo conservatives. This is coming from the right wing, that the only way to address the only way to address the unhinged and rogue bureaucracy is basically to have a unitary executive. The unitary executive has to accumulate all power into himself and basically wield that power against the executive branch of government, as is his constitutional duty.
Yeah,
this is like the irony of
basic
history.
Constitutionalism. Yeah,
this is the irony of history, that for the entire 20th century, all of these presidents have taken more and more power away from Congress and taking it for themselves. I mean, like, talk about
not even
like FDR.
Yeah, they're not taking it from them. I'll push back briefly. They're not taking it for themselves. They're taking it. Well, he did.
Yes.
But after him,
yes,
they're taking it for the administrative state and the bureaucracy that they're hands off of.
But what the model is that some like visionary like FDR or Bush, the neoconservatives, they would give the power to him, and then it would percolate out into the deep state.
Yeah,
that's kind of how
into the administrative state. Yeah, right? Absolutely.
That's how it works. And so what happens is the only way to reverse that is for someone with all the power that he inherited, that they gave him. Yeah, the establishment gave this power to Trump. He's not taking it. The precedent was set. They set their own trap. He's using that power against them. Hilarious. I love it. You know?
And that's what you have to do, right? I mean, that's our only alternative. It isn't just getting electing 300 hardcore conservative congressmen that are going to vote this stuff down. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, Congress has very little power, and the administrative state that determines, like, more than anything, that determines who gets elected to Congress. Or if you want to run for Congress in whatever district, right? Well, guess what? All of the special interests are connected to one part of the administrative state or the other, right? If you're, where I grew up, you're in heavy agriculture country. And so, right, everything to do, and it's like where Monsanto begins and the USDA ends is anyone's guess, right? They're effectively the same thing, right? You have to be, whatever guy are Monsanto to get elected there, right? That's how power works with Congress everywhere. Or if you're in, I mean, why does South Carolina have the senators and people in Congress that it does, right? Because of the military industrial complex. Why does Lindsey Graham keep getting elected, right? Why is Mitch McConnell senator for life, even though everyone hates him, right? Why? It's because, right, the people don't elect their congressmen. Like, that's absurd. The great irony too is, like, the only actual democratic in the true sense of that term action that has actually been effective in our lifetimes has been the election of Donald Trump. Right? Everything else is just managed. Right? It's just managed through the media. It's managed through the regime. Right? They select the candidates they want first. Oh, do you want Barack Obama or Mitt Romney? I don't really know. Yeah. Who cares? Right? When they were finally given an alternative, right, they took it.
Well, but here's the thing. Donald Trump is not the king over the American people. No. What he's actually is, he's the king over the deep state. And that's why they're ticked. Because
that's why they hate
he's wielding power not against me and you. No. He's wielding power against the enemies of the American people. He has the Jacksonian mandate. Yeah. That's what's so funny.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful. And so many of these things, like, I mean, I remember it seems like months ago now. Every week seems like its own month. But it was like a week ago that he tweeted out or truthed out, I guess, the quote from Napoleon. Right. Yes. He who saves his country breaks no law.
Let's talk about that.
And you would have,
who was it that said it sounded better than the original German?
Bill Kristol. Yeah. What a genius. I mean,
so funny.
Bill Kristol has got to be one of the dumbest people there
I know.
I have nothing but contempt for him. And so he my goodness. So, he says this, and of course, a lot of, constitutional conservatives, they get upset about this, right? Because well, the Constitution is sacrosanct. And it's like, this Constitution of yours, of ours, right? One that I love. I think it's great. It's wonderful. The
Would be
vision
nice
of
to have it.
the vision of 1787 is glorious.
Yeah.
And it's totally gone.
Mhm.
And it has been gone for generations before we were even
You know what
born.
else is glorious? King Arthur. Like those are wonderful times.
Or King Alfred, you mean?
All of them.
Did King Arthur exist?
Of course he existed. Are you kidding me?
This is not Haunted Cosmos.
This
man.
is the crossover event right here. So, but like these are things that exist in a myth, and that is the opening
Yeah.
prelude to our series. Is going to be about the myth of the 20th century.
Yes.
If I'm permitted to say it like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's dangerous.
So the point though is that Donald Trump is indeed he is indeed
Driving the big truck.
driving the big truck, and he's the dictator of the deep state.
Yeah,
and
but he has to be, right? That's the thing. And I mean, I look at it too.
You think Congress is going to limit the deep state?
Yeah, give me a break. Or it's going to limit itself. Yeah, for sure. No, of course not. Right. The American people elected someone to smash all of this up. Right. That is what took place. And this is a point we made, I mean, maybe a year ago or more, that constitutional law is good. Rule of law is good. We want that. We want to have that again. And to get there, right, you have to have someone take extraordinary action to be able to restore, like people don't get, oh, we want to restore the Constitution. Well, you know what that's going to take? It's going to take someone doing stuff that maybe you find distasteful, maybe you find unlawful, maybe you find, you think this is way outside constitutional norms. Well, it's going to require that to bring that back, right? So we made this point that was George Washington fighting against the British Army, was that constitutional? Right. And the answer, of course, is no. No, he was committing treason if he lost, but he won. Mm-hmm. Right. He who saves his country but violates no law.
But the fact of the matter that we have to emphasize is that he's going after a cancer.
Yeah.
He's not going after the American people.
No.
People are describing this like Stalin, like he's going around, he's rounding up individuals.
Purges. Yeah, Stalinist purges.
And like maybe there has to be some deportations, but like this primary war is against the establishment, the bureaucracy, managerial totalitarianism. That's why they're mad, is because they're losing their power centers.
Yeah, they're losing all of it. I mean, and it's, I don't think it is a coincidence that one of the very first things that he does is cuts off all of the U.S. aid funding. Right, he knows. Right, he's got shrewd guys. He's got Stephen Miller back there, just rubbing his head, thinking, what can we do to smash up the deep state? He's been thinking that for years. Mm-hmm. What can we do? And first thing they do is they cut off the billions of dollars going to the activist groups called NGOs, right? Shutting that all down, right? It's perfectly executed. Yeah. It's what has to happen. And so what I think is going to happen in the next few weeks or next few months is there will be a challenge to Trump from the judiciary, and it'll get strong. I mean, now it's just like random federal, like very low federal judges. But it's going to start making its way up higher and higher. And there will be a confrontation between the president and the unhinged, unelected, unresponsible, completely dishonest, corrupt judiciary in this country. And he has to win it, right? He has to win. He has to. I mean, we could be. We're maybe we're not repealing the 20th century. Maybe we're repealing, the late 18th and getting rid of Marbury versus Madison, right? Oh, Supreme Court gets to decide all the laws, right? Well, where does the Constitution say? Well, it doesn't. We gave that power to ourselves, right? According to who, right? Oh, it's just a norm we've accepted for a few hundred years, but it's not like it's written in the Constitution, right? I think it could come to that.
Yeah.
Right. And the question you have to ask is, right, whose side are you going to take? Right. The side of the American people, or the regime? Yeah.
But like, we have to emphasize too, that like Trump's not making up some new executive powers.
No, of course not.
Right. Like FDR. I mean, so Trump's had like what 250 executive orders in the last 4 years. I mean, with his first, including his first presidency.
Yeah.
But FDR had 3,700 executive orders.
Yeah.
Like
he's not going to catch him.
No, he's making them drink their poison.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, like I was saying earlier, the FDR gains massive imperial presidential powers during the 1930s. And then slowly over the next few decades, all of that is widely distributed throughout an unelected bureaucracy that nominally the president has control over. But very few presidents have actually attempted to wield any control over all of this bureaucracy. And now Trump is, right? He's wielding that power. And they're trying to argue he doesn't get to actually have authority over the executive branch. Yeah. I mean, and they're talking, oh, this is a constitutional crisis because he's firing federal workers. Yeah. It's like, he's the executive.
Well,
he could do that.
It's funny because all the guys that lined up behind Bush and the power that he should have to declare war outside of congressional authority. This was Ron Paul's whole thing. Yeah. Was that Bush does not have the constitutional authority to declare war. And now what does Russell Moore do? He takes photo ops with George W. Bush.
Of course he does.
He signs like concern letters with the whole like Bush administration. And now all of a sudden, when Trump is undoing all of their executive power structures.
Oh, this is a constitutional crisis.
Well, not only is it constitutional, but it's also a gospel issue.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Of course it is. Yeah, like, oh man. Yeah, it is absurd. And I don't know. I think, thinking back to the question of, the titanic shift in Christian political thought, at least among many recently, is that, if you would have asked me 20 years ago, right, when I'm a young 18-year-old, instead of an old man like I am now, if you would ask me 20 years ago, should the president just be able to do the kind of things that Donald Trump is doing? Like, I probably would have freaked out. I probably would have agreed. Like, this is terrible. This is bad. Because my entire life was marinated in the liberal, democratic, egalitarian, post-war conception of political power, which everyone's was, and there wasn't anywhere I could go to learn. Well, how should Christians think about politics? Right? Like I said,
no Contra Mundum podcast.
There was none. Yeah. There wasn't anything like that. And I was very interested in politics. At my first year of college, I wanted to go to law school and pursue a political career. So glad I never chose that path. But it'd been awful. My life would be horrible right now. I'd probably be over in a Mediterranean country touching a wall at this point, if that was my pathway in life. And so Gary finally got it.
Did he Google it? Or?
No, it took him a second to laugh. Oh, he's laughing at the comments. Okay.
Gary doesn't listen to the show.
Yeah, he's not listening. He's not listening to anything we're saying. But I mean, I think about, like, I didn't have anywhere to go, anyone to teach me. Okay, this is how Christians thought about political things. Like, there was like the idea of ideas of like Johannes Althusius, for instance. I had no idea who that was. That was not anyone talking about. And so you just meander on and you find your way and you begin to develop instincts. And I think that's what a lot of people have, is they have very good instincts about politics, apart from the things that get taught to them from pulpits.
Yeah.
So the big sea change has to be a Christian approach to power, to political power, and how it is wielded. What it looks like when the gospel goes forth and nations become discipled, and the heads of their nations, their kings, or in our case, presidents. He's not a king. Don't worry. right? What do you do? What do you do when they're Christian, right? And I'm not saying that Donald Trump necessarily is one or not. I'm not making a comment on that. But what do you do when the king converts? Right? How's he supposed to rule? How's he supposed to use political power? Is he supposed to stop? Is he supposed to govern according to the Sermon on the Mount? Right? And most Christians they have no idea, and they would maybe say yes, yeah, I guess he should turn the other cheek and just let all the murderers go and let the country be flooded with 10 million people from a year from the third world. That's all they can think.
That's their preeminent political principle. Isn't that, that's what they do. That's what they operate on. They pretend like that controls all action.
I'm outside of
in complete contradiction to not only like Romans 13 and stuff, but 1,000 years of Christian history and Christian political teaching. They've become pacifists, and they don't like to claim they're pacifists, but they are, because turning the other cheek in the face of a breach of the walls and letting the enemies in the gates is pacifism. It's anti-political, and what comes of that is not utopia. It's not a pleasant society. It's not love conquering all. No. It's the decimation of your children.
It's everything being destroyed. And people had the appropriate instincts hundreds of years ago, because they weren't propagandized from cradle to grave, like we are. They had the right instincts that, oh no, the king, the people in charge, people with political power, they should wield that political power for the good of their people. Yeah. Right. Their particular people, not the good of people just generally, but their own people. And like no one even had to think about that. Right? It wasn't there wasn't any alternative to that. Of course, that's what you do. And sometimes they weren't even very good men. Sometimes they're very wicked men. But they still wielded political power for the benefit of their nation, of their people, or of their region, or whatever, wherever their domain was. That was their role. And we have something so far from. I mean, just look at the reaction by many of these Christian leaders to the cuts in U.S. aid, where like nobody stops and thinks like our country is $37 trillion in debt.
Well,
we're broke, and we need to go pay for like every single third world country to have AIDS medication,
which is according to what constitutional right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, where? Isn't that funny?
That's the zero, or that's the well, Steve Saylor has a 0th amendment, but that's some amendment somewhere, I guess, says that the United States needs to make sure that everyone everywhere has a nice life. Yeah. That's your responsibility.
It's constitutional.
And if you're a Christian, you should want that. You should want that, CJ, because you believe in Jesus, right? So you should want all of your tax money to go to Mozambique.
Yeah. It's constitutionally appropriate to send $2 million to Christianity today, but it is inappropriate if Donald Trump exercises his executive power.
Apparently, they're claiming they never got that. But
is that what they're claiming?
Yeah.
Isn't that convenient?
And it was just PPP or something. Yeah.
Which
I'm sure,
it doesn't matter. It's still unconstitutional.
Yeah, any of it. Yeah. And I'm sure all of the donations they get are totally above board and not from federal funding anywhere.
Yeah,
laundered through various NGOs.
It's funny. It's like, for my friends, it's a living constitution. For my enemies, originalism.
Yeah, exactly. It's always that way. Right? It's always that way. Yeah. And that's how our respect for the Constitution is used against us.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And like at the end of the day, like you can disavow Schmidt, but you can't avoid him.
And the people,
they're all Schmittians.
The people that shriek the most about friend-enemy distinction are always the most adept practicers.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. They're the ones wanting to cancel us and our friends. Yeah. They're the ones that are wanting.
When you see Neil Shenvi write a long thread about Carl Schmitt and friend-enemy distinction, he's a Nazi, so he's bad, and this is bad Christian ethics, blah, 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 and a bunch of nonsense. He is the first person that will cancel you if one of you Anons says something that is naughty and bad, right? He will be the first person to say, who's your pastor? Yeah. Who's your boss? Right? Where you live? What do you do? Do you need to be unemployed? You need to be broke, right? That's what these people do, right? Sick, twisted, disgusting people. And they practice, they know that you are an enemy, and they treat you like that. All the while saying, "Oh, I don't believe in friend enemy distinction. No. That's a very unchristian." Meanwhile, give me your boss's phone number. Right? That's how they behave. It's like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. So anyway, I think as things continue to develop with Trump, as more and more happens, there will be many, many, many more Christians who will come to realize that we need to rethink many things about politics. We need to rethink many things about the pieties that we hold to, right? Rethink many of the pieties of the post-war religion, which very much is its own separate religion, distinct from the Christian religion, right? I mean, right now I'm being attacked by a disgusting journalist, and he's probably watching. I want you to know that you are a disgusting person. I mean, journalists are the scum of the earth. And one of the things I don't even remember this conversation. I don't even remember this conversation, but I had a Twitter conversation on X.com with somebody who allegedly was doxxed. I don't think they probably got the wrong guy. Some discussion about slavery came up. It maybe was in the context of Zach Garris. I'm not really sure, but it's like, and he's attacking because I said the Bible doesn't condemn slavery as a sin, and it's like, it doesn't. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It doesn't say that it's good either.
It doesn't say that it's good.
It doesn't say that it's good. It doesn't. But it doesn't prohibit it. And so I'm not going to call something a sin that the Bible doesn't condemn as a sin. I can't do that. Now I can say, here are the reasons why it's not good, why it's bad, why America shouldn't have had it. I can do all of those things, but I can't say that this thing that God regulated and said they could do is a sin.
Yeah.
But that's something that violates the post-war religion.
Yeah.
Because you have to believe that the only two enemies that America has ever had is the Confederacy and the Nazis, and they're the same thing.
Yeah.
This is something Orrin says all the time. And so you have to view the Confederacy as Nazis. You have to view all the slaveholders throughout the first half of American history as something like Nazis. That's why we need to pull down all their statues. And God doesn't condemn it even though I think it was bad. It was not good. I would have said, don't bring the slaves here. Don't do that. This is bad. This is a bad idea. This is not good. It doesn't matter that I say that, because I need to make a religious statement, right? I need to condemn it from a religious standpoint and say that this is a sin, that if you do it, you're going to hell. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that Jonathan Edwards is in hell right now because he owns slaves. I don't believe it. I don't care. I mean, you can crucify me in the media all you want to, but I'm going to agree with the Bible at the end of the day, right? I mean, this is something that Doug Wilson wrote a lot about and got in a lot of trouble decades ago, talking about slavery, and it was the same thing, right? I'm not going to condemn something that the Bible doesn't condemn, right? Even though I have pragmatic reasons to understand it was not good.
No, I totally agree. Like that's one of the lessons of the 20th century too, and all that transpired, and like you recognize that, like, wow, that was bad. We should not have brought slaves into this country.
No,
that was a terrible decision.
That was,
So, but that doesn't mean it doesn't mean the Bible says it's a sin.
Yes.
Like you see it's an obvious disconnect there.
Yeah.
Like you can think something's a bad decision, but also say the Bible doesn't say it's a bad decision.
Yeah, but you'll have post-war consensus enjoyers where they'll treat the Bible just like they treat the Constitution, which is a living document, where
unless they want to wield it against you.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a living document, and through the process of time, we've come to learn that slavery actually is a sin, and also we've come to learn that homosexuality isn't. How about that? What a coincidence!
Kidnapping is a sin.
Yeah, man stealing is a sin, and so stealing people from Africa is bad.
Is a sin. Yeah. I think we both agree with that. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why you don't do it. And and you can like, well, we did act like the Africans were enslaving each other, and we did,
Which they were.
and, well, of course they were.
Yeah.
But right, giving them a market,
Yeah,
and incentivizing them to enslave way more people,
Mhm.
that you're participating in that sin.
Yeah.
By doing that.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
long tangent.
a very long tangent, but I think it goes to show that like Christians are terrified to tell the truth. They're terrified to agree with the Bible,
Mhm.
right? Where the Bible is clear. And whether it's on homosexuality, whether it is on the issue of slavery, whether it's on a whole host of things that conflict with the post-war religion, then like it takes a lot of courage to push back against the post-war religion that
Mhm.
everyone the true religion that everyone actually believes,
Mhm.
right? The belief that the civil rights, racial revolution in America has been just a smashing success for everyone. That's de facto heresy. I mean, it is heresy in that religion to
Mhm.
say that. You have to venerate Martin Luther King. Like I went to a funeral recently, the service was at an ELCA church in Minnesota, and I looked through their hymn book or prayer book. I don't really know. But it had a list of the like saints days, right? So they had all the traditional feast days for the the various saints that they hold in common with the Catholic Church. But then it also had feast days for Gandhi,
Yeah.
and Martin Luther King and Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And it was just I like reading that. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But like they're what the reality is like they're fully conform, like the overlapping Venn diagram circle between ELCA Christianity and the post-war religion is almost a closed circle.
Mhm.
Whereas within evangelicalism, it's not quite closed,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of overlap, but it's not quite closed. And I want that to be two separate circles.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what the one of the things that the New Christian Right is doing, is showing like, here's the post-war religion over here, and here's Christianity over here. And those two circles do not overlap, really at all. I mean, we could think about some of the other beliefs that democracy is the only biblically licit form of government.
Right.
Like that's one of them. It's like, no, the Bible actually doesn't say that anywhere. And I mean, you can come up with dozens of these pieties that people hold to.
Well, it's actually everything. The
Yeah.
Bible doesn't demand religious freedom.
No.
It doesn't demand like the right to a gun. There's all kinds of things that are in our tradition.
Or prohibit gun ownership.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are just well rooted in our heritage, and therefore it's we can lean on them, and we can act accordingly. But the idea that the Bible has to condemn the things that the post-war consensus also condemns, it's like it's like Stephen Wolfe constantly says, what a blessing it is that we live in an age when our political structures line up perfectly with what the Bible commands.
With the timeless politics of Jesus.
Yes, it's
what a blessed age that we live in. But it's true. It's true though, and it's an uncomfortable fact. People don't want to confront it because you can talk about all sorts of things and feel like you're really courageous.
So let's
but if you challenge the post-war consensus, you challenge the post-war religion and the pieties of the post-war religion, you will be run out of churches.
But
your name will be dragged through the mud. You'll have disgusting freak journalists do stories on you, and it's worth it. It's worth it to tell the truth.
Let me just say a funny thing.
Okay, say something funny.
Okay, people should know this. We were approached by a local pastor in the broad region because he saw the story.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the reason I'm contacting you is because I was hit 30 years ago by the same news channel on something I said during I don't know if it was a sermon or what. So he said, like, I was attacked as well. And I just want you to know that as we get further and further away from our historically, rooted Christian society, you're going to be attacked more and more. And what that means is you're on the right path, because the post-war consensus is basically now mutilating itself into an enemy of Christianity. And that's what Aaron Renn describes as the negative world. And so as we enter negative world, and this is the funny thing, like all of these, pious regime evangelicals will always say that we're entering, like it's good for the church to be persecuted, because then we can really have our faith tried. Well, we're entering into the age where these people and the political actors that they support are now persecuting, right-wing Christians. And so this is our chance to basically speak the truth to power anyways. And they're the ones doing the persecuting. I think that's why that's why they have a persecution complex. Just because they want to persecute. Yeah. That's exactly what's going on. And so as we enter more and more into that age, it's going to be more and more painful. And I think the reason why it's becoming more painful is because they're losing their power, right? They're losing their control over the American mind. And I think it's all part of the same story that the new Christian right is basically willing to stand up and say, the emperor has no clothes. Yeah. And the more we say that, the more people will rally around us. But the media is going to go out squirming.
Yeah, they are. Well, getting really hungry, CJ. I think you probably are too. Aren't you?
I'm a little hungry. It's been a long day.
Yeah. You should probably have something to eat.
Shit,
like some Farmer Bills.
Like some Farmer Bills.
Oh, you have it right there.
I do.
Look at that. Look Show the people on at home. Show the people at home the farmer. Show the logo. They got to see it.
Beef biltong.
Yeah.
This is not the chili kind that you were having.
Yeah, CJ can't handle the heat.
By the way, guys, my turn to tell a story. The second we went off live last week, Andrew jumped up, and Gary can back me up here, and he ran out and got water.
It's true. It's because, true. I was more thirsty than anything else. Let me just put it that way. But let me tell you some things about Farmer Bills. If you're like me, you grew up on beef jerky. That's literally all I ate. It was a must-have for a road trip. But have you read the ingredients they're putting in jerky? Maltodextrin, MSG, synthetic nitrates, artificial flavors, tons of sugar, and allergens like ultra-processed soy and gluten. Not to mention most jerky companies use the lowest quality imported beef. Right? That's the trick. Right? They
fake beef.
The beef that is turning gray that you wouldn't buy at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Right? Where does it go? Mm-hmm. Into the beef jerky that you buy somewhere else in the grocery store. Right? There's the dilemma. You need protein on the go. You got to hit the macros. Right? 300 grams of protein, CJ.
It's just so good.
You need protein on the go, but beef jerky is laced with lab chemicals from the globalist's laboratory. Enter Farmer Bill. Farmer Bill's Provisions is a rancher-owned meat snacks company in South Dakota that offers pasture-raised meat snacks. He makes biltong. It's like beef jerky, but without the bad ingredients. Just beef, apple cider vinegar, sea salt, coriander, clove, white and black pepper. That's it. No sugar, soy, or nitrates. Mm-hmm. You could try the 4-pack sampler of their pre-sliced biltong, but I would recommend going for the bestseller bundle, which includes the 4-pack, a half-pound slab, and 2 of their grass-fed tallow balms that will nourish that dry, wintry skin. The pre-sliced biltong is perfect for protein on the go, and the slab is great for snacking at the house or hosting a party. It's like a huge, dry-aged ribeye that you could slice off little steak strips for snacking. Grab Farmer Bill's bestseller bundle with free shipping and an extra 20% off with code CONTRA, CONTRA, farmerbillsprovisions.com. So, anything else to add before we reach the end of the show today?
Are we that close?
Yeah, we've been at this for like an hour. We've got maybe, what do we got, 20 minutes left? Last segment of the show.
I would just, what's Gary saying?
We got to do the ad read for our sponsors in Qatar.
Oh yeah, we didn't. Yeah, we're brought to you by Qatar travel to Qatar.com.
Yes, thank you. That's also true.
Thank you, Oil Shakes, for all the money that you give us. No.
That was a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke. Please don't sue us, Qataris.
Yes.
We don't want to get sued.
No, not by
We're
you.
not sponsored by them at all.
We're not trying to start a religious war
Yeah, that's right.
on the podcast.
Yeah, go there if you want, but it's not on our recommendation.
Mhm.
I've never been.
Well, let's end with this. What is a counter-revolution?
Yeah, that's
Right?
the title of the episode. We should probably discuss what that is. Huh?
Yeah, so I describe what Trump is doing, accumulating power
Mhm.
within the executive branch and wielding it against the deep state. That's a counter-revolutionary. Because the point is, the 20th century was characterized by a bunch of revolutionaries
Mhm.
on the left who had captured the New Deal managerial regime, while conservatives stood by their principles, and the country become occupied by all sorts of terrible interests and ideologies and foreign policy and foreign powers. That's what the conservatives did. And so we live in an age where we have to stop having a conservative posture, and we have to pursue the world that conservatives lost. So on one hand, I like what the conservatives were saying, but we don't live in a world where we can pretend like there's something to preserve about it. That's what a counter-revolution is.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to understand is the revolution already took place, right? If you believe that we're still living in the country of the founding fathers with the same government as the founding fathers, then you might think, oh, the things that Trump is doing, those are bad. This is revolutionary. This is terrible, right? This is so unconstitutional. But like when you understand that world's gone, and it has been for nearly 100 years, right? At least since 1933.
Mhm.
That world's completely gone. So what has to be done is counter-revolution, right? You have to roll back the revolution. You have to take away the wins that the revolution has gotten over several decades. And so for those that are unacquainted with what has actually happened, right, it looks like something terrible and crazy. Like, oh, Hitler is taking power. This is just like 1933 in Germany. And it's like, no, it's actually not. It's not revolutionary in any way. It's a restoration of what is actually American.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, we've said this, for years. You've said this a lot, CJ, for years, that any restoration of the U.S. Constitution, the original constitutional order, is going to be called fascism. It's going to be called revolutionary. It's going to be called a dictatorship. It's going to be called every buzzword that our enemies love to use.
Because they don't actually care about the Constitution.
They don't care about any of those things.
No, they like the 20th century.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it is. And so
we do need to read the super chat.
That's what. Yeah, we should get to super chat here. Okay.
From BJJ wins again.
Yes, $5.
Yes. Is there any heights of winning that you'd bet are out of reach now? Feels like the ceiling has been blown off.
I mean, I think there are some things that are out of reach. I think there still is a bounded rationality, so to speak.
I agree.
And so there's certain things, but at the same time, so many of the things that I thought were impossible just think of where we were 4 years ago, right? I mean, this podcast kind of had its origins in the wake of the 2020 election, where like you and I would be on the phone like every day for an hour talking about what was going on, because I felt like you were the only person that I could talk to that could make any sense of any of these things. And I was probably the only person that didn't think you were going insane. And is that accurate?
More or less.
And so anyway, where we were at in that moment, I mean, if you think back to that, right? Driving in my car, talking to CJ, it was grim, right? It was bad. If you would have told me then, hey, this had to happen, they had to do this to him, it's going to look a lot worse, like he's going to get shot at and nearly killed, but he's going to win. And then when he wins, he is going to do everything you thought he was going to do in 2017.
I don't think he would be this harsh if they hadn't stolen the election.
If they hadn't stolen the election and also tried to imprison him, then kill him.
Yes. I think that if they had just let it slide in 2020, then he would have been out by now, and they would have had,
they could have done all the same things that they did. They could have obstructed him with all these different
they had
things.
so much hubris and pride that they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't.
And look who they installed as president and vice president, right? A man who was already, I mean, in his prime, was really stupid. Like Joe Biden was really dumb, like a sleazebag lawyer. And Kamala Harris
was even dumber.
Somehow is dumber than him in his senility.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what they installed. Like they didn't have anybody that they could have put that would have been competent, because the point was not to be competent.
Right.
The point was to let the machine run everything. And it was just to get rid of him and re-empower the machine. And had they let him win, he wouldn't have been able to do anything. You would have had Mike Pence as the vice president, so no long-term, plans, no legacy, no one to him to pass the baton off to.
They got him to a place where he trusted almost nobody except for legitimate outsiders.
Yeah.
Right. So now he's got Stephen Miller. So now he's got like Steve Bannon is back in his ear. Now he's got Darren Beatty and like others, and now he's got JD Vance, and JD Vance is following people like us. Yeah. They wrote their own death warrant basically in doing that. Yeah.
Like they nominated a poster to the vice presidency of the United States. Yeah. Right. That's what happened.
Yeah. And whose fault is this? This is Nancy Pelosi. This is on Nancy Pelosi, on Stacey Abrams. It's on the Democratic regime/machine.
Yeah.
And and now that the counter revolution has commenced, and we're here for the whole thing.
Yeah, they went for the king, and they missed. Okay, let's go to the comments. I mean, there's hopefully that answered the question, but I mean, maybe we should elaborate a little bit more.
What's Josh? If Josh Pulver can hear us, what's he talking about? What's the thing?
I don't know. I mean, if he's being cryptic about it, not to use that guy's name.
Speaking of cryptic,
where is he? He hasn't made a new account yet.
It's funny that USAID funding goes dark and then cryptic's gone.
He disappears. He stops calling you not an American, not a heritage American. No, I think as far as what is off limits. Yeah, the Joe Biden quote. I got it. Yeah. Very good. But I mean, going back to that question, what is off the table now? Far fewer things than I would have thought possible. I mean, you still there has been a vibe shift. Things have changed, but it isn't totally fundamental. Like all of the normies are still normies, and believe all of their normie things. They're denizens of trash world and they love it, and they don't realize that it's making them miserable and everything is horrible and they could have a way better life. And so the things that like you and I, if we were actually kings of America, if we were the actual emperors of America, that
would be sinning.
Yeah. apparently. But if we were, we just had, unitary power or binary power, I guess, because there's two of us. What would we do? Like, I mean, so many things I would do in a heartbeat. I mean, I would, forget Doge. I'd get rid of 90% of the federal government tomorrow. All of them gone. And I would change lots of laws, right? I would legalize freedom of association in America, right? That's one of the first things I would do. I'd get rid of the income tax. I would allow things like gold and Bitcoin to be legal tender. There's a million things I would do. And that would require, doing those things would bring out tremendous amounts of violence against me and you. So there would be war over all of those things. Because that's how deeply embedded those things are into power. But those are the few handful of things that I would do. So are those things on the table? Like maybe the monetary stuff is right. Maybe what's going to happen when
there's
the gold is not in Fort Knox?
Yeah, well, there's definitely going to be some sort of monetary recalculation, or it's got to be backed by something now. Because if it's not going to be backed by our military presence in Europe, it's got to be backed by something else.
Yeah, and
so something's going to change there.
That's part of it. Is the reason all of these countries use the dollar is because we are holding a gun to their heads.
Yes, correct.
Or there's a theoretical gun from whatever potential boogeyman there is that we're holding a gun against for them, because we've subsidized their defense for decades. I mean, that also is, I mean, back to BJJ's question. That's a thing you had Trump talking about this in 2015 about getting out of NATO, and for it to actually begin to have way more legs, to have Vance talking about European security the way that he is, that they need to resume their own sovereignty. Like if they want to be part of a demilitarized zone in Ukraine, or however that ends up shaking out, they need to do it. It needs to be up to them. We're not footing the bill for it anymore. And so Germany's gonna have to have a military again. France is going to have a military again. And this is the thing people don't get. I mean, we talked about this with Paul when we were in Texas, that the American occupation after the war, it isn't just like American tanks and soldiers are marching around doing their thing. It is that those countries no longer have militaries, or their military is so small, very small, in comparison to the potential threats, and in comparison to our forces and being that can be drawn against any adversaries. And so what that means is they don't have sovereignty, right? If you don't have the means to defend yourself as a nation, you are not sovereign. And so who is the sovereign over Europe, right? Who is the sovereign over Germany, over France, over the UK, right? It's not the king, right? It's the American regime.
Yes, correct.
And so the reason why Germany, why Germans, West Germans in particular, have been indoctrinated into self-hatred for the better part of a century,
it's our regime,
is because we have sovereignty over them and have enforced that upon them.
Correct.
Right. That's the reason why AfD has massive support in the former East Germany and not nearly as much in West Germany, because we ripped the soul out of Germany, out of France, out of Belgium, out of the Netherlands, out of England. Right.
Well,
why is the most popular name in London Mohammed today in 2025? Right. Yes. Because they were occupied by the United States. That's why.
All the things that the Department of Education does, the American entertainment media, the corporations, all the things that it's doing to brainwash Americans in the last 20 years, they first practiced on Europe since the end of the World War II. Successfully. So these are experts who have a good track record of doing that to Europe, and now the chickens came home to roost, and they're doing that to us.
It's an 80-year social engineering program that's been done on them, and we've only had it really the last 20 years.
Correct. Exactly.
I mean, we've had the media going for a long time, but in this intense way, like we've had it for the last, really since 2015.
Yeah. The self-hatred,
DEI, all of this stuff comes on the scene. Right. That social engineering program was perfected in Europe by us to them. And
starting in Germany.
Starting in Germany, but it didn't stay there. It wasn't just, you were Nazis and bad, so we need to scramble your brains. They did it to France. They did it to Italy. They've done it to the UK. They've done it to all of the, like, if you go to the UK and you talk to or people from the UK, the majority of them, and this has been tell me if I'm wrong, maybe my anecdote is not true, but the majority of them, right? You ask them, like, well, what is, like, why is your country overrun with all these foreign people, right? Why are you like a third world country now? It was like the Tucker interview with Piers Morgan, where he's like, it doesn't look like you won the war. It looks like you lost the war. We're invaded. And well, no, they're British, right? The head of the Conservative Party in Britain is from Nigeria, and it's like, that's not. Maybe she's a wonderful person and everything else, but she's not British. Yeah, she's not one of them. They don't have their own nation anymore. It's gone. And like, Rishi Sunak, right? A Hindu Indian that speaks Hindi in his home, Right? He doesn't teach his kids English, you know that?
Yeah.
Or they learn English probably because they're in England. But in their own household, they speak Hindi, right? That's not a English man.
We have to pretend that they're Scottish. You know, like
yeah,
we have to
like
pretend that.
Hamza, whatever.
This is this is nuts.
Yeah,
Like,
he's like, oh, it's getting so bad here. I'm gonna have to go leave Scotland. It's like, good, you should. You're not one of them, right? No, I mean it's serious.
no, I agree with you.
It's insane.
It's
That
insane.
this has happened to these countries.
Yeah.
And they've turned European nations into economic zones, right? They can't. And the irony of all of it though is diversity is our greatest strength. And what's like every single place looks the same, right? Scotland is undifferentiated from Belgium, from Italy, from everywhere else. It looks like the Mos Eisley Cantina everywhere you go, right? It's not Scotland anymore. It's not Belgium anymore. It's not Ireland. Like, did you see the video of the welfare line in Ireland?
Yeah.
And there wasn't a single person from not even Ireland, but the continent of Europe
Yeah.
in that line. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Right. Or the video. I mean, it's a few years old, but the video going around talking to random Irish people in one of their cities and asking, what's the most popular name in the city? They're like, oh, it's Billy. It's Michael. You know, I can't do an Irish accent. It's pretty good. And then they go back around as, oh, it's actually Muhammad. Like, and you can see the like dread on their face. Like, oh yeah, that's good. That's okay. That's fine. Like,
Yeah,
that's what's happened to Europe. And we did that.
Yeah.
Our country did that.
Well, Americans do the same thing though.
Of course we do.
Like,
yeah.
you know, like that's America is for the Americans.
It's for the whole world, right? Everyone in the world has the right to become an American.
Yeah.
Right. That's part of what needs to be deconstructed and destroyed.
That's hard, man. That's gonna take a lot
right?
of
these myths have to be broken down.
Yeah.
That nations should exist, right? That we're and I'm not even like this, you know, total immigration hardliner, right? All things being equal, like okay, if you have a 100,000 people a year in a 300 million person country, okay, you know, whatever. Fine. Of course, it'd be down to 250 million when you get the illegals out. Right. If you have a little bit of immigration, you know, even with the like, oh yeah, we'll take 200 IQ geniuses, right? We'll take them from all over the world, wherever they're from, doesn't matter. But the bulk of your nation should be your nation, right? You shouldn't bring in mass population exchanges, right? And we've been taught that that's good. That's a blessing. That's a good thing for us because don't you know, CJ, the sojourner, right? God cares about the sojourner. Right. Well, what's a sojourner? It's a person who's temporarily in a place, right? Not a foreign army that just sets up shop and decides to occupy your home, right? That's not a sojourner, actually. So no, but I look at Europe, you know, I look at this place, and it's been destroyed, and it wasn't destroyed accidentally.
No,
it was destroyed purposefully. Right, this was the plan
by the American regime,
by our regime, the one that Trump is deconstructing, the one that Vance is saying, "No, you're going to be sovereign now." And the people there, they even eat despite decades of social engineering, despite decades of propaganda, they don't want this.
Well, I think
they've never asked for this.
I think the man on the street doesn't like our presence there. I think the politicians don't.
Well, I'm not even talking about like the American military, forces being there. I'm talking about the fact that their country is being taken from them.
Oh yeah,
right? They hate that.
Of course, they hate that.
And like you get thrown in prison if you talk about it in Germany. Like if you post the rape stats among the migrants, you go to jail. Right? Like it's insane. It's nuts. And how did that happen?
Yeah.
Right? How did this happen? Well, it's right, as brutal as East Germany was. Right, they didn't import foreign populations there and then jail anyone, right, that complained about it. Right, I mean, they gulagged a lot of people, they imprisoned a lot of people, tortured lots of people, but it was just to loot the country.
Yeah,
right? It was just to keep them in poverty. Like you could survive, a country could survive that, this exploitative occupation where they're stealing all your stuff. Right, you could survive being robbed. Right, you can't survive having your soul taken from you. Right. And that's what's happened in Europe. And that's what our regime has done.
I can't wait till we get to that part. We're going to talk about that.
We are going to talk about
We're going to talk about the occupation of Europe.
And the Cold War.
So I think that's it for today.
How much
but-
time we got? Oh, yeah, it's about that time.
Well, I mean, like, go sign up today, because on Wednesday we're going to tease on some things. There's going to be the Charles Lindbergh interview with Ron Unz.
Yeah, people got to see that. We'll release maybe 20 minutes of it.
Yeah, of course we will.
Yeah,
Of course we
we're gonna tease it out a little
we're gonna
bit.
tease it out.
Just give you a little taste of Ron Unz.
Yeah.
But you want to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, and you want to support the new Christian right.
Absolutely. Big things to come.
Big things.
We're very excited, and
We're going to work together as a unit.
yeah, as a team.
The elites hate that.
They really, like, you're joking, but
I'm not joking.
They do.
No,
They do.
I used a meme format, but I'm serious.
Yeah, they do not want that.
Yeah, they hate this.
They do not want guys working together.
But guess what? You can just do things.
You can just do things now,
Mhm.
right? It's allowed once again.
Yes.
So that is all that we have. I'm so thankful for everybody in the chat. We didn't get into the chat a whole lot today because we had so much to discuss. But next time we will. But thank you all for watching, for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe, and also sign up for Contra Mundum. And
Seriously,
do it right now.
There are people.
Do it.
There are people watching this right now that have not opened another browser, and it's really frustrating.
What do you mean?
They should have opened another browser. And
Oh,
sign up right now.
yes. Open the browser and go to
We can tell.
ContraMundumPod.com and sign up right now. But no, it is it's an exciting time to be alive. Go
But short of that, go
buy
some
Farmer Bills.
Farmer Bills.
Eat as much beef as you
Oh,
can.
You want some?
Not
No,
at this
come
moment. I will later.
Okay. Okay.
So thank you all for watching us, for listening, and stay peacefully dangerous. And we will see you next time. Next time.